Okay, so I guess I'm doing these podcasts alone now, or at least for this one, because no one joined. I don't know what happened. But anyway, so it's still going to continue because I don't want to leave it off on a note like that. And then, it's still kind of fun playing games on weekly and then discussing the stories and theories. So I'm just going to continue that. But anyway, so for this final week, did the 5th episode, and so it starts off with you realize that you're still trapped with Mr. Jefferson. He goes on this whole tangent about his whole plan or whatever, which by the way still doesn't make sense to me. I get it, but I get that he's a psychopath, but it doesn't make sense. Okay, so there are two things that don't make sense. One, that he has all these binders of the different girls that he's kidnapped and took these pictures of while they were drugged up, and supposedly killed them because he kept telling Max that, oh yeah, you're gonna die soon, kind of thing. It doesn't make sense that he kidnapped these many girls and I guess didn't kill them, but somehow he hasn't been caught yet. Because if he kidnapped all these girls and didn't kill them, you would think that at least one of them would reveal the truth. And if he did kill them, you would think that there would be these missing cases. And, he was talking about how he that's why he likes this school or whatever, is because, everyone's so innocent, so pure, and, he can take advantage of that. But in the earlier episodes, it showed that there were not any missing cases, for how many, 10 years at least. So, and Rachel was the first one. So it's weird that, that he's been doing this all along, but somehow he hasn't killed them, but he hasn't been found out either. But anyway, he's going on his tangent, and and another thing I don't like is that I don't like when stories, when you finally get the villain and he goes on this evil plot tangent. Oh, you should have known all along. Oh, let me tell you everything you missed, and let me tell you my whole plans and why I do this. I think there are better ways that you can write a villain and then have their plans be revealed or whatever. I don't know. I feel like that trope has been overdone, and it's kind of corny having the villain, oh yeah, now that you found out, I'm going to reveal my true inner self and be all edgy and evil and stuff. But anyway, so after that, you have to go through these photos. So Max now realizes, of course, that she can go through photos. So somehow he just leaves a photo, I guess, on the little banister, and she looks through and then goes back in time and then is able to alter reality just a little bit. So then she can go even further back, because she needs to get her journal and then get the photo where she first took it, in the beginning of the game, where she took that selfie in the beginning of class, which started the whole thing in general, where she finds Chloe and all that stuff, where she was about to get shot. So she does that, and then it turns out, she's able to go back in time, and she's able to change history completely. She's able to tell whatever the security guards, she's able to tell the security guard, hey, there's proof of this guy being a maniac before he becomes a maniac. She's able to tell Kate, there are people who care about you, blah, 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 blah. She's able to get, what's his name in trouble? Whatever that kid's name is, the bad kid. So it ends up, everything's all perfect. Literally everything's perfect. And she wins the contest. She's able to win the contest. So she's going to San Francisco. She has all these opportunities. She's seeing her art being displayed. And, she's all happy. There are people congratulating her. There are freaking interviews. There are people, art people. There are rich people. There are schools calling out saying oh yeah, you get a full scholarship. Everything is working out. But then she gets a phone call. Oh man, freaking Chloe. She's like, oh god, oh, the storm has come. Oh, I'm gonna die. Oh. So, which, sucks, but there's so much benefit that she gained from that. If anything, she should have just went back in time and told Chloe, hey, on Friday, do not be here. All this stuff that's happened, how I'm predicting everything. Send all your family out on Friday, just don't come. But no. She's like, oh crap. I can't. I guess there's no other way to change history other than burning up my picture that I was going to submit. So then she goes back in time, back into the first day of class or whatever. She rips up her picture that she was going to submit, and I guess everything just repeats verbatim completely. So she's back in Mr. Jefferson's freaking Dungeon Doom or whatever, Dungeon of Doom or whatever, the dark room. Yeah, she returns back into the dark room. She's like, oh crap, I didn't change anything. And if anything, it's even worse because he burned her journal or something like that. Yeah, he burned her journal. I don't remember why, but he burned her journal. So now she can't even go back in time in general. She can't go back in time to any of the photos she's collected in these past how many freaking episodes or whatever. So then she's like, oh crap. But then it turns out not the janitor, the security guard. I forgot his name, but the security guard. It turns out he figured out where the dark room is. I'm not sure how, but it just happens. Deus Ex Machina. He happens to find where the dark room is, and then saves the day. So you have to do all these things to make him. Well, I'm trying to remember. Was there a choice? Not really. He saves the day. He's able to knock out Mr. Jefferson. Okay, this is the choice. Yeah, this is what I was remembering. So you have the choice to tell him that Mr. Jefferson killed Chloe or not. And I was like, let me not, because I'm going to save her anyway. I'm going to go back in time and save her anyway. So I mean, it doesn't matter. So I just didn't tell him, because I'm like, why would I even tell him in the first place if that's my whole purpose, is to go save her. So, and then also I think if you do tell him, he will kill Mr. Jefferson, which is kind of unhinged. I mean, I guess it makes sense because, that guy's crazy. But, that's what happens. So I didn't tell him. And then she figures out, oh, crap. For me, there is a way for me to go back in time. Warren took a picture, like I think on episode 4, they took a little selfie right before they went into the Vortex Club. So she had to get to Warren. So you drive to Warren, you see like this huge freaking tornado and all this destruction in the whole town. She's just casually driving, even though apparently literally everything else is being demolished by the winds. But she's casually driving, and then she gets to the place. She then, like, you can save a bunch of people like while you're there. And who did I save? I saved the photography hipster kind of dude. Apparently he wanted to take a picture of a whale so bad that he gets knocked out or freaking killed by a freaking flying stop sign. So you can go back in time and save him. And then you can save the girl who always gets hurt. Apparently she's not able to jump a little height. Like, it's just a little jump. Let's just say it might be a 6-foot jump. Like, okay, like, yeah, some people can't jump 6 feet. But if the whole town is being demolished, I'm jumping that 6 feet. I'm jumping in any way I can. I'll jump straight down. Okay, I jumped down 2 stories. I need to get out of there. So you save her by getting a freaking board and saving her. What else? Then you crawl through this building, and you can save this one dude. Yeah, because you need to turn on the fire extinguisher because there's fire in the building. You turn on the fire or the electricity to turn on the fire extinguisher, and then he gets electrocuted because he's just in the corner right by a freaking dangling wire for whatever reason. So there's a way you can save him too by going back in time, blah, 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 blah. So then you finally get to the diner. You see Joyce, you see the drug dealer dude, you see the homeless dude who apparently got the lottery ticket, but I guess not, because he's been in the town the whole time. So I guess he never won the lottery? I don't know. And then you can also see Warren. So you can talk to the drug dealer dude. He will be like, oh man, this sucks. And then you can tell him like, hey, this is kind of literally all your fault for being a drug dealer. You're selling drugs to the dude who's doing the insane stuff. And that insane stuff killed the girl that you loved or whatever. So, he gets all depressed. Oh, it's all my fault. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you shouldn't have. That's your fault. But then you could talk to Joyce, and you could do again. You can lie and be like, hey, I'm going to get or no. Apparently you can convince her to trust her ex or her step husband or whatever. You can make her trust him again. I saw that in the stats. I'm like, what? When did she not trust him? I thought they were, fully okay with each other. So I'm a little confused, like, what I was supposed to say to make her trust him. Weird. Of course, you can talk to Warren, and, Warren's like, oh, like, you tell him everything, basically. Tell him, like, you have all the powers, and he kind of tells you, like, you are kind of the cause of this for, like, messing with all these different realities. And she's like, oh, crap. Oh, I guess I am. Like, oh, because I wanted to save everything. The chaos theory is creating this superstorm. Anyway, you get the photo from him, and you can decide to like give him a kiss or something or not. I was like, you know what, might as well do it, because I feel like Max does like the guy. I mean, she is obsessed with Chloe, but I think she does like Max, or not Max, does like Warren in some way, I guess, you know, and Warren's a good guy, so, you know, good for him. So then you use the photo to go back in time, back to the Vortex Club, and you have to convince Chloe, or well, you do, but still, you convince Chloe to basically, have her the stepfather handle everything. Like, you have to somehow convince him to handle everything, and then, like, I guess that's really it, basically. Like, she just had to convince her to not handle things on her own, because she's going to get shot. So you have to convince the step douche to listen to everything and show him all the evidence, and then he will arrest Mr. Jefferson, which he does. Like, you see it in those photos where it changes time, it changes history or whatever. You see the timeline changing, and you see that he breaks into the dark room with a bunch of police and stuff. So then it turns out, like, I guess while that happens, Max loses consciousness, and she's just kind of existing, I guess. I'm not really sure how that works, because she can't remember anything. At some point, she does remember, and she's like, oh crap, I remember everything. And Chloe's like, oh, you remember now. So they're by the lighthouse for some reason. Like, apparently the brain dead Max tells them to go to the lighthouse. So she goes to the lighthouse, and then she starts like passing out again. Like, she starts freaking like nose bleeding, passing out again. So she passes out, and then she goes into like limbo. She goes into like a hell, and like there's all these like weird scenes of the hell. Like, there's the scenes like she's remembering, I guess, all her past events. There's this part where like Mr. Jefferson and the crazy dude and everyone is like all looking for her and like saying stuff. Like, you know, they're saying insane stuff, which, by the way, I think proves my theory about what's her name, Rachel, because even Mr. Jefferson was saying like, oh, she basically saying that she was doing all these other stuff on the side, like all like basically being a thought on the side with Mr. Jefferson, with what's his name, with the crazy kid. Oh, that's the thing I forgot to say, is that like it reveals that how Rachel died was that the crazy dude, I forgot his name, but the crazy dude, he ends up deciding like he wants to be like Mr. Jefferson, because Mr. Jefferson was like a father figure basically to the kid, because I guess his father, you know, only cared about his legacy kind of thing. So Mr. Jefferson became like an insane father figure. So it turned out O'Neill was right, that those emails were not to his father, it was to Mr. Jefferson. And it just sounded like it was to his father because, you know, that kid saw Mr. Jefferson as a father figure. So it turned out he kidnapped Rachel because he fell in, at least from what Mr. Jefferson said, he fell in lust with her, and like was so enamored by her presence that he wanted to be like Mr. Jefferson and capture her innocence or whatever, some weird whatever crap. But he injected her with too much of the serum, too much of the freaking the stuff, and killed her accidentally. And that's what made Mr. Jefferson be like, oh, you're not ready for this. You're not ready to be a psychopath because you're killing people. Which is weird, because he was going to kill Max. Maybe he was going to kill Max for finding out. I'm not sure. But still. Oh, and it turned out Mr. Jefferson loved Rachel too, I guess. You know, he was obsessed with her in the same way that he's for some reason obsessed with Max's purity or whatever. So yeah, in the end, that's what killed Rachel, was the crazy dude. I keep forgetting his name, but the crazy kid. Why I bring that up? Oh yeah, because in the hellscape freaking limbo dream, they like each of all these people were talking about Rachel in like weird ways, like basically that she was a thought, that she was like kind of, you know, she just liked being the center of attention. She liked male attention in that sexual way too, and basically that became her downfall almost. You know, and even Mr. Jefferson, I guess, alluded to that even if she went to California, she would not have really survived, or like, you know, she would not have ended up in this amazing position because of kind of the person she is, I guess. So anyways, was there anything else in that hell? Well, okay, I mean, this is something completely separate, but there is something I do like about Life is Strange, is when you sit down and like have like a calm moment. Like even in the hellscape, there was like a time where you can just sit down and listen to Max's thoughts. And I think that's actually really cool kind of thing where you can just, because it's almost like in real life where sometimes you just need to sit down and just cool off for a second, just kind of think to yourself, take a break. But you get to the lighthouse, and then she regains consciousness or whatever, and you have this choice. And it's like, the big choice of the game, which is controversial because people say like it kind of makes all your choices throughout the game kind of useless because, it all kind of comes down to these two choices, which doesn't really matter in the end with all your choices in the past. And the two choices are basically you can sacrifice the town to save Chloe, or you can sacrifice Chloe to save the town. Because one of the hellscape things is like, you're seeing all the characters in the whole game and they're all saying stuff like, are you really going to kill me? Like, for example, Kate would say like, oh, you, after all this stuff, after I realized, after you saved me, basically, you're just going to kill me off. Warren being like, oh, I really liked you. This. So you're just gonna kill me. There was one thing about, what's his name? The crazy kid. I keep forgetting his name. Nathan. Oh, his name's Nathan. The thing about Nathan, he's trying to, like, there is when she's driving back to the town, like before she went back in time again. She's driving back into town and she ends up getting this voicemail that, she missed when she was drugged or whatever. And the voicemail is Nathan being like, oh, I'm so sorry. I never meant to do any of this. He's going to kill me now. Oh, I didn't mean to do any of this. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's like, what? You're a psychopath. You had a gun. You tried to kill people multiple times in this story. And you actually killed someone. And you're like, oh, I never meant to do any of this. Like, how are you going to turn this around? That's another thing I hate about stories where they try to make the bad guy be like a good guy. No. He has done too much bad to be, like, for me to feel pity for him. I'm okay with him freaking getting shot and killed by Mr. Jefferson. I do not care. And then, like, in the hellscape dream, he's like, oh, Max, I didn't mean to do any of this. Like, who are you? Like, this is the guy who killed someone, tried to kill someone, and technically killed someone in the alternate reality, Chloe. What? Screw you. What the heck? But yeah. So in that hellscape, everyone's trying to convince you, like, you're being kind of insane by sacrificing an entire, like, how many 1,000-person town just for one girl. And then even Chloe starts thinking that, like, oh man, maybe the universe, I was supposed to die that day. You keep trying to save me. It doesn't make sense. Maybe you should just sacrifice me. And I made the choice. I was like, you know what? I have done too much in this game to sacrifice and going back into time and doing all these alternate realities, even to the point where Max had a chance of having, like, her life set up as a photographer, literally set up, and she sacrificed it all for Chloe. It would be stupid to be like, okay, you know what? At the very end, I guess I'm just going to kill off Chloe, I guess, because, the town. It's like, what? No, there's too much sacrifice. I have to follow through now. And then not only that, that town was like demonic. That town was messed up from the start. If anything, that town needed to be wiped out. Regardless, everyone in that town was busted. Everyone. And the only reason Max came back to that town was for was for Mr. Jefferson and was for Chloe. Mr. Jefferson ended up being demonic. So now it's just for Chloe. She doesn't care about the town. She cared about Chloe to be honest, like an obsessive level. So in the end, I chose Chloe. You see the town get completely demolished, but it got demolished on the best soundtrack of all time, Obstacles. I love that song, but I keep saying I love that freaking song. That's one of my top songs of the century. But it gets destroyed, and you see Chloe and Chloe and Max driving off, and which is weird to me, by the way, is that Chloe's driving off and she kind of have a smirk, she's kind of happy. I'm like, your mom died. Like, it makes sense for Max to not care. Her parents are all off in Seattle or whatever. But Chloe, her mom died. So it's like, why are you so happy? Like, you should be, like, freaking out, if anything. Like, yeah, you could be grateful to be alive, but you shouldn't be, like, smiling. That's kind of weird. But yeah, then they drive off into the distance, and that's it. So, I mean, what are my thoughts? I do think it was a good story. Like, I know they had issue with it, but I actually really liked the story. I like that it was so kind of calming and like really like it was slow paced in a relaxing type of way, because it fit the narrative, like where it's like, okay, it's relaxing, you know, this is this small town vibe, but there's like something's off about it, you know, there's an off-putting kind of thing, and you slowly figure out like what is this off, like, you know, what is creating these mysteries, what's off about this town. And I also like, of course, the soundtrack is amazing, like their choices for the music, and which fits with the small town vibe, you know, these guitar type songs, these kind of like hopeful, kind of rustic indie rock kind of songs. It just fits, everything kind of fits. Even the art style, I like the art style. I like when you select stuff, there's this kind of artsy drawing kind of look that kind of fits with the journal. I think everything about the story was very good, actually, and the characters all fit. It was believable. I think the only slightly cringe thing was maybe the dialogue sometimes. Like, you know, they were very kind of, it's not realistic of how people talk. It sounds like someone who's like 30 or 40 trying to imagine how people who are 17 or 18 talk by looking on the internet, which doesn't fit reality. Like, you know, Twitter and TikTok. I mean, TikTok wasn't a thing back then, but still, just say for today, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, or whatever, the way people type, that's not the majority of people. Like, people don't talk like that. And then most of the people who like interact online are such a small percentage of the population. I forgot what that concept's called, but it's almost like dead internet theory. But it's like, it's such a small portion of the populace who actually interact or like add to the online discourse, but it doesn't fit like how reality is. Like, yeah, some people say period, but not everyone says period. Like, you know, the majority of people do not say period in their like day-to-day talking, even though it seems like it based off of like if you go into TikTok videos or TikTok comments. I think that's the only off thing. And I think, like, you know, certain things like Mr. Jefferson's like evil turn on the last episode, I think that was kind of cringe. But like in general, it's a very good story. But I guess we'll see what happens with the remaining episodes, or not the remaining episodes, but the remaining games, because of course next is Before the Storm. I already had issue with that game because they changed how Chloe is. I don't fully remember because it was so long ago when I played it, and I only played like one or two episodes. It must have only been one episode. I only played one episode. I didn't like how they changed Chloe. It just didn't fit the vibe of like how Life is Strange 1 was, like where Chloe's really, really cool. Her voice actor's like very well done, or voice acting. But I remember in the second game, they changed the voice actor, and then they changed her personality. Like, she was very, what's the word? Like, she was very soft and not as like edgy and not as like punk, where I'm like, this is not the same character. But I guess we'll see. I'll watch it or play it with new eyes, so maybe it'll be different. The only other thing to talk about, like, as a retrospective, is that people talk about like the time travel aspect of Life is Strange, like it's like this, like, oh, you had to have it, you have to have it in every game, like, oh, in the final game, or like, I guess in, what's it called, Double Exposure, Chloe's back, or not Chloe, Max is back. They're like, oh, but there's no time travel. I don't really think that added to the game that much. Like, yeah, it was a part of the story, don't get me wrong, it was a major part of the story by the end, where it, you know, it really had to do with how the story built up and like how it changed and stuff. But like having that, it, like being the running theme of Life is Strange, would be boring. It would not add to the story as much. It would not be as unique or original. Like, if anything, it should be only this game, where it, you know, every game needs to have its own gimmick. If they keep using the same gimmick, it's going to be boring. No one's going to want to play the game. But the way fans are and the way gamers are, or people are, they want everything to be exactly the same. But then when everything is exactly the same, they get pissed off. And they only like realize in retrospect, like, oh, that should have been its own unique thing. But if you don't show them that retrospect, then they think of this alternate reality where like, oh, it would have been better if it was just like the first game. Not realizing that it wouldn't. But I don't know how to fix that. There's no way to really fix that other than just ignore. But those are the people buying the games. So who knows? That's the weird kind of balance you got to do with gamers, where you have to appease them, appease the things that you know they're wrong about, but you have to, like, you know, you have to just listen to them because they won't buy your game. The fans won't buy your game. But you also have to ignore them being stupid, because if you do listen to everything they say, the game's going to be generic crap, basically similar to Assassin's Creed or Ubisoft in general, Ubislop as people say, where it's just generic. Like, yeah, it's not a bad game, but they don't deviate from their formula enough, where every Ubisoft game is the exact same thing. Rather that's Ghost Recon, rather that's Far Cry, rather that's Assassin's Creed, they all have the same slop formula, and it gets boring after a while. Like, after you play 4 of their games, you're like, okay, I already know how each new game's going to be. So now you only buy the game on sale, because you're like, why would I pay full price for a game that's not that different from the old one? But that's about it. As you see, I can do podcasts on my own, but I mean, there's not as much back and forth. It's going to be quicker because I know exactly what I need to say. I guess Jabbar's wisdom has trained me in the ways of just rambling about nothing for 30 minutes. So that's about it. Who knows if they're going to be back or not, because that is kind of annoying that they don't have as much of a, excitement about doing the podcast as I do. And it's also annoying that it feels like I'm pushing them to do these episodes every week. You know, like, they obviously are not into it as much as I am. And it's kind of annoying because, like, as you even see in past episodes, 99% of the time it's me talking. And the only other person who does talk too will be Trevor. But Trevor's not fully into it as much either. Like, he's more into it than anyone else. And or at least he's willing to talk more than anyone else. But he's not also in the same, like, you know, he's not as into it. And obviously O'Neill's not, but O'Neill's like in third place of like the person talking. He started talking a little bit more and more lately, but you know, it's the same thing. Brian's obviously fully not into it. I barely even know he's playing the games half of the time. You know, this time they didn't even, like, you know, like, even in this Discord, there's not as much back and forth talking. It's just me kind of rambling on my own. And, like, you know, I can talk to myself, but I'm not like, it's annoying where it feels like I'm being forced to. Like, it's different when someone just is not talkative and I'm the one, you know, doing the talking for the both of us. But when it's just me talking to the void and, you know, they're not as interested as me, then it's like, why am I even doing this with other people when I can just do this on my own? Like, you know, it's not that hard to do it on my own. Like, it's not as interactive, it's not as dynamic, but I can do it on my own. So that's just the context of why it's just me. So that's about it. I guess the next episode will be episode 1 and episode 2 of Before the Storm. So I'm still going to be doing this weekly, regardless of whether they're joining or not. I'm still going to do this weekly schedule because it's easier to organize, and you know, it doesn't overwhelm each podcast episode. I think the only time like this happened before, actually, because with the Mass Effect, as you noticed, there wasn't a final Mass Effect episode because of certain dramas, and then, you know, there's this huge, what do you call that, hiatus of like no talking or no podcast episodes for like almost 2 months. So so that's about it. The next episode next week, episode 1, episode 2 of Before the Storm, which is the prequel to this one. So it'll be interesting, especially since this is finally will be after the first episode, it will finally be a game where I haven't played it before, so it's all new to me. So I guess we'll who knows how that discussion will be, because, like, you know, Mass Effect, all the Mass Effects, and then Life is Strange 1 I played, so I know the story, so I'm going into it knowing what's going to happen. So I already am focusing on different stuff, so the dynamic of this one might be a little bit different, because now it actually will be a mystery what stuff, like, you know, what are the beats of the story and stuff like that. But yeah, that's about it.